This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, college basketball fans, and welcome to the Primetime Podcast. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And Brandon, today what we're talking about is last week we mentioned a Big Ten team. We're going to be talking about another Big Ten team today in the Iowa Hawkeyes. We're also going to be taking a look around the kind of whole surface of college basketball. Who's the best player right now? Is it Ben Simmons? Is it someone else? Or is it Ben Simmons? Because let's be honest, he has been called the next LeBron James. But what we're going to start off with first is a team in the SEC that, I'll be honest, a few of you have been asking us to, hey man, where's the love? Where is the love with this certain team? And that's the Texas A&M Aggies. And Brandon, today we're going to answer the question of, are the Aggies contenders or pretenders in a way? Can they really contend for a Final Four berth? Can they maybe win this whole tournament in this year of college basketball that has had the most parity that I think I've ever seen in my college basketball watching career? But looking at everything, the players, the stats, and the schedule, I think it's plain and simple. Are they contenders?
Well, Ricky, here is, I think, the number one thing when you talk about Texas A&M. They're ranked number 5. They have the highest ranking ever at number 5. It's the highest ranking that Texas A&M, the Aggies, have ever gotten in college basketball. And it does come down to the question, do they deserve the recognition for a number 5 team that Joe Lunardi currently has as his number 2 seed in the East? My answer, no, they don't. Texas A&M is an overrated and overvalued team right now. And, you got to look at what they've done, and you have to say, you know what? At 17-2, they're pretty darn good. But at the same time, you've got to be able to look at what they've done, who they've beaten, analyze it like that. Okay, so let's do this. They beat Texas, a Texas team early on in the season that you would say.
Well, that's why I didn't even bring it up, because they beat them before Texas got on their roll, before Shaka even had his Shaka team in place.
And you mentioned that last week. They beat a Gonzaga team who was number 10 at the time by 1. Gonzaga, where are they in the top 25? They're not.
Nowhere.
They're not there.
This is not your, like I've said before in podcasts, this is not your grandfather's, this is not your father's Gonzaga team. Adam Morrison's not sitting in the bleachers crying. Well, he's sitting in the bleachers, probably crying, but he's not going to be out on midcourt crying. Pangos is going to be nowhere. Kelly Olynyk's all the way in Boston right now. This is not your Wiltshire. He's not there. This is not your grandfather's Gonzaga team. This is a newer Gonzaga team, not as elite as before.
And how about this, though? Their best win is against Baylor, and I'll give them that. Baylor's a pretty decent team right there in the middle of the pack. They beat them 80-61. No one else in an SEC that no one really looks at in college basketball. Well, there's 2 teams in the SEC who anyone will really take a look at right now.
Well,
and that is, hold on, not even done yet.
Okay.
Texas A&M 7-0 in the SEC conference, 17-2 overall. The next 2 games back, Kentucky at 5-2 in the conference, 15-4 overall. A Kentucky team that's currently ranked number 20 and is not the Kentucky team that we saw last year. Not even close. Anywhere near close.
Not even close.
The next best, Florida, 5-2 in the conference, 2 games back, but 13-6 overall. They're not ranked. So I don't think that this Texas A&M team really deserves to get this praise that they may be getting right now, because they have two more games coming up that I think will be big for them. It's Iowa State on the 30th of January, Kentucky on the 20th of February. And ISU currently ranked number 14. They're better than 14. Kentucky ranked at 20. They're probably right there at 20. I think Iowa State beats them. And the game's at home for Texas A&M. Then they'll also be at home against Kentucky. I think that'll be a closer game. Texas A&M could pull that one out against Kentucky, but I just don't think that Texas A&M is as good as what they look like right now. They have that number 5 ranking, and then they have right now, Joe Lunardi gives them the number 2 seed in the East. They're the weakest team out of the 2s.
Well, I want to go back, and you said a lot there, and it's all, to me, good stuff, because this is one of the few kind of subjects me and Brandon are going to agree, where I am not high on the Texas A&M Aggies right now. And the reason being is, before you hit your keyboard and go to type, hear me out here. The reason being is the teams they've beaten in conference, I don't think they're that good. But you may be sitting there going, but Ricky, this team that they beat is the second in the SEC and this and that, but they're not that good in the overall landscape. You may be saying, hey, Ricky, on the 19th, they went ahead and beat Ben Simmons and LSU. Well, okay, that's great, but the discussion we're having about LSU is whether or not they're going to be a tournament team based on Ben Simmons alone. The general conversation about LSU is, are they a playoff team? Probably not, but hey, let's throw Ben Simmons in there because people are going to want to watch that in March. That's the conversation we're having with LSU. Now, I'll give you this. You have Kentucky coming up. You have LSU on the road. I think LSU, a win on the road for Texas A&M would be better than beating them at home. But the one game I'll say, and I've had, tweets come at me, but hey, Ricky, they beat Missouri. Yeah? Can I throw a nugget out there, Brandon?
Let's see where Missouri falls at 1-5 in the conference.
You want to know what else I was going to get at? And that kind of strikes home to me because, yeah, you know who else beat Missouri? The fucking Illinois Fighting Illini, who lost by nearly 100 to Indiana. So that's not a good win. Let's be honest. Not a good win. It's 66-53. Well, it's your conference is weak. I get it. Win the conference, you'll get into the tournament. However, when you get into the tournament, you're going to play a team. Yeah, you might have beaten Baylor 80-61, but you know who just destroyed Baylor this weekend? Oh yeah, that's right, the Oklahoma Sooners.
They didn't destroy them. It was by 10.
You will have no. It was a much further game than the final score was at the end.
I know, but score-wise,
they were nearly up by 20 in that second half. So to me, Oklahoma ran away with it. Oklahoma is going to destroy Texas A&M if they meet in the tournament. That's what I was getting to.
I don't disagree with that, but
Buddy Hield will take over that game and say, you know what, bye-bye, Aggies, go home.
But here's the thing, actually, you got to throw this out there too. To their credit, Texas A&M has won 10 in a row. But, I mean, you got to look at the teams they're beating. They're beating the Arkansas, 9-10 overall. Mississippi State, 8-10 overall. Missouri, 8-11 overall. Tennessee, 10-9. The team they beat with the best record in their conference was LSU, 5-2 in the conference, 12-7 overall. That is not good. This Texas A&M team is overranked, overhyped, and I do not think that at the end of the day, this team is that good.
I want to throw out one more thing for you. Either the two losses that they have, the Syracuse and the Arizona State. Syracuse right now 10th in the ACC. Arizona State 11th in the Pac-12. Just throwing that out there for you. These are not top tier like ACC and Pac-12 teams that you lost to. One thing I do want to correct myself from a little bit earlier in the podcast, when I did mention Gonzaga, Kyle Wilcher, is still on the team. I thought he was gone from last year. He's the only thing that Gonzaga has at 21.7 points per game. But the thing that I think with Texas A&M is your losses are bad. Yeah, there's only 2 of them, but your losses are bad. And your wins aren't good enough. They're not good enough to garner the respect that Kansas is getting, North Carolina, Oklahoma, even Iowa, who we're going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But I want to throw this out to you, Brandon. is there a chance that Texas A&M kind of takes the same kind of feel that Ohio State did 2 years ago in football and says, you know what, you don't respect our conference, we're not a good team that won the whole SEC this year, whatever, we'll prove you wrong in the tournament. And can they do what the the Ohio State Buckeyes did in football 2 years ago?
No, they cannot. And I say that because we have these teams all the time that we get them ranked high, and they get ranked high just because they keep winning. I mean, you're not going to keep a team that keeps winning low. I mean, you have to rank them high just because of the fact of they're winning, but they're not playing anyone. They're not really having a lot of adversity or really good competition thrown at them. So when they finally get in the tournament with their fancy 2 seed, they go up against, the 15. Is it the 15 seed? Yeah.
The 2 plays the 15.
I just want to make sure that I had that right.
Your math is right in your head. Yeah.
And the 15 seed could pull that off.
Kind of like a team we talked about last week, Brandon. Who may that be? The Villanova Hovas?
Yeah.
The Wildcats, another team where it's like, yeah, you played Oklahoma early. Yeah, you may play like Butler, Xavier, Providence during your conference schedule, but you get a fancy 2 seed and then you get knocked out in the first round. Duke's the same way. I'll be honest. I'll throw Duke under the bus too. They're usually the one that, hey, you know what? We're coming in with a 2 seed. Woohoo! We're going to win it all. And then they get bounced by Robert Morris. They get bounced by C.J. McCullough and the Lehigh Eagles, I want to say they are.
How about this? I had said earlier that Texas A&M currently is a number 2 seed, the number 2 seed in the East by Joe Lunardi's bracketology. The number 2 seeds, they go as follows. In the East, it's Texas A&M. The West, it's Virginia. In the South, it's Xavier. In the Midwest, it's Iowa. I say, and I said it earlier, that Texas A&M is the weakest number 2 seed out of all those. What do you think?
Read them off to me one more time.
You've got the Aggies in the East, the Virginia Cavaliers in the West, Xavier Musketeers in the South, and the Hawkeyes from Iowa in the Midwest.
To me, early on, I feel like it's a tie for the least between the Aggies and the Virginia Cavaliers. And this is a Cavaliers team that was, I want to say, a number 1 ranking earlier in the year, and then they lost. But, yeah, to me, those are the two at the weakest. And I would kind of lean a little bit more towards, I know you'd put Texas A&M as the weakest. I may lean and put Virginia as the weakest out of just those teams. And the reason being, and I wanted to get to this because I'll be honest, for the almost 13 minutes now, I believe we're at the 13-minute mark of this podcast, Brandon, I have done nothing but shit on the Texas A&M Aggies and their fan base. And I got to bring up a positive because that's who I am. I want to bring at least one positive for you guys. And here was the main positive that I saw with Texas A&M. I'm just going to name 3 of their players. Senior, Jalen Jones. Then we have
who has
senior,
had a nice season,
Daniel House. And then freshman, Tyler Davis. So we see some kind of parity with this team where, yes, they have the freshman center who is averaging 11 points per game. He's also got 5.8 rebounds per game. But also they have that senior leadership. The 2 senior guards who, Jones, a transfer from, last time he played outside of Texas A&M was 2012, 2013, then sat out the 13-14 season, has been with the Aggies the past 2 seasons. He came from SMU. Then you've got House, who came over in after the 2013-2014 season from Houston, was able to play right away. He's also been with the Aggies for 2 years. So this is a team that is built on senior leadership. Yes, they are transfers, but it's still senior leadership that has been with the Aggies now in their 2nd season, and they do have the freshman talent to go along with it. However, I don't see this team being a Final Four contender. I'll be honest, if they're a 2 seed, I'll give them a Sweet 16. I'll give them a Sweet 16 at the most.
I think that's really sweet of you to do that, Ricky. So I'm going to continue to shit on them. Because here's the thing. Virginia actually is a much better team. They just don't have the higher
I said I'd lean.
ranking
I didn't
right
say
now.
I'd go for sure. I said I'd lean.
Good for you, buddy. So here's the wins for Virginia. They have not lost to a team in the top 25. Mm-hmm. They beat West Virginia 70-54. They beat Villanova 86-75. They beat Notre Dame 77-66. They beat Miami 66-58. They've got Louisville coming up. They've got Duke coming up, Miami again, and North Carolina and Louisville to round things out. If they can win most of those games, Virginia is solidified, I think, as a better team than the Aggies and an appropriate number 2 seed.
Well, okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Go screw yourself.
To Virginia, because I know...
I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
You know what, Brandon? I'd rather play devil's advocate here on the podcast than let you get hit up in the comment section with this question. So I'm just going to ask it so people can get the answer now instead of taking your precious time outside to type a response, because we all know that, right? But out of the losses that they've had... First off, George Washington. Who the fuck is George Washington? Just going to throw that out there. Then Virginia Tech, who in the ACC right now, a 4-3 team, 12-8 overall. Then Georgia Tech they've lost to, 1-5, 11-8 overall. And then Florida State, who is probably their middle-of-the-road loss, 2-5, 12-7 overall. How is that different? And I'm just throwing it out there to ask the question. I'm not saying I necessarily believe this question. But how is 4-3, 2-5, and 1-5 in the ACC different from the records that we see in the SEC? How you're saying, oh, well, you know what? You only beat a 1-5 team, so I'm not going to respect you. However, Virginia lost to that one, and that one win is Virginia.
I'm not going to say that those losses. Obviously, no loss is good, but I'm Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Florida State. Those teams aren't that good, but they're all division games. Mm-hmm. They're all on the road, and they were all close.
Okay. So, I just wanted to throw it out there because I know someone's going to ask.
But that's my point. Those games are all on the road. Those games are all really close games. I think at the end of the day, the wins overshadow those losses.
Because they're all top 25 wins, yeah.
They're all top 25 wins. The losses really weren't mainly to teams who are, let's say, outside of their conference, who are just these crap teams from nowhere. Mm-hmm. You know, they're all within the conference. Not saying that they're great teams, but they were close games on the road, tough environments. You know, I mean, college basketball is so significantly, I think you can say, there's such a fan influence and fan not perspective, but a fan they have a much more impact on the game than I think any other sport, because of how loud they can be, everything like that. That's what I love about college basketball.
College basketball is you get everyone into a small building and that student section just goes crazy. I love it.
I still think that it comes down to, if you look at Texas A&M, and I have nothing against them. I'm just wanted to make the case today that I don't think, because of the fact that they have not played strong teams, it's hard to look at them and say they are a strong number 5.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other things,
a strong 2 seed.
And one of the other things I will throw out there, because let's be honest, I mean, Texas A&M fans might not want to completely be like, yep, that's one of the reasons why where we're at right now. One of the reasons where they're at right now is because, and why we're even having this discussion, is because Calipari's Wildcats are not the Calipari's Wildcats from last season. This was a team we expected to come in, and it's like, hey, you know what? John Calipari teams, freshmen come in. Let's see if they can do it again. Reload and unload is what Calipari teams go ahead and do. And this Kentucky team has lost to UCLA, Ohio State, LSU on the road, and Auburn on the road. Bruce Pearls. Yeah, you heard that right. Bruce Pearl and his Auburn Tigers, who are not a very good team. And we've got players where, yeah, Murray and Ulis are double digits, but Alex Polythrice. We got Labissiere isn't playing anywhere near. We thought Scal would be playing with only 7.5 points per game in 17.2 minutes. Also, another kid I'm going to throw out there, and the only reason I'm throwing this kid out there is because Brandon, from where we live in the Chicago area, this is a hometown kid getting 12.4 minutes per game for Calipari, only getting 2.4. Charles Matthews out of St. Rita High School. This was a kid everyone thought, hey, you know what, he's going to impact the game right away too. 59th recruit overall, top 20 point guard, top 5, the second actually in the state of Illinois for recruits last year. And Kentucky hasn't been playing well, so this is kind of why Texas A&M can be like, hey, look, we're the prettiest girl in the room because the other girl's home with mono. That's what it feels like to me. This is a high school, and Texas A&M's like, hey, we're the prettiest girl in the school because the other one's home with mono. Can't be the prettiest in the school if you're not there.
You can be, though. Everyone can want you to be there. You know, I think it's an interesting comparison. But, you know, someone's got to take it. Someone's got to take it. And currently it's Texas A&M because they have the best overall record and the best record within the conference. But I think at the end of the day,
they'll lose in the Sweet 16.
It
that's
comes
the
down
they go to
how strong are they when put up against the top of the top 25. And when I say the top of the top 25, I don't even mean, you know, the number 1 or the number 2. Because I'm talking, how about you put them up against like a Virginia?
I can't wait. This Saturday we get them to go up against ISU.
Not that they would, but I'm just saying, put them up against a team like Virginia, who I think is strong right now at number 11.
Mm-hmm.
Put them up against them. Put them up against ISU. That's going to be a big game. Who's going to win? I've got an idea.
I can't wait for this Saturday against ISU because that's going to be, since the Baylor game, I'll say, that's going to be really the big ranked test for Texas A&M. But Aggie fans, I'm going to be completely honest with you here, as I've been this entire podcast. Let's say you do beat Iowa State and you beat Kentucky, and you're going, woo, what up? We just beat 2 more ranked teams in your face, Ricky. I'm telling you right now what I'm going to say so that you guys can just hear it, digest it, and put it in. All these ranked teams, you played at home, except for Gonzaga, which was a neutral site. But Baylor, Iowa State, Kentucky, all at home. Go play them on the road. Go play in Rupp. Then we'll see if you go ahead and win.